So, I have been in the ministry for more than 27 years. And my parents and my grandparents are ministers. So, I'm in. And as a result of that path, one of the byproducts of that situation is, I'll bet you I have been to hundreds, literally hundreds of funerals, which is weird. And I get all kinds of different expressions when I tell people that, because nobody wants to go to a funeral. Of course, you know, I get that. And it's creepy to say that you look forward to it, right? I get that. It's kind of an Addams Family thing, and I'm not going there. But on the other hand, there's something really amazing about getting to be there for that experience. I'm incredibly honored by getting to be there for that rite of passage, to stand there and say the things that I say and help hopefully guide people through this transition experience into something else, talk about some big things and some immediate things and tell some stories and all of it. There's an interesting byproduct of all of that, and that is that when people are at a funeral, stuff occurs to them. Maybe you've been to one or two and you know exactly what I mean. People are, whether or not they go to church or spiritual centers or whatever, whether or not they have some kind of a spiritual concept of how the whole thing works, you're staring at a transition. Even if you think it's just the end of everything. You're looking at that cliff, you know, one way or the other. People have insights at the Grand Canyon. This is deeper. You know what I'm saying? But the funny thing about being at a funeral is that you don't want to share those insights with the person next to you because they're crying and you're supposed to be too, and you don't want to say, hey, you know what, Cousin Larry, I know you're crying about this, but look at what I've discovered about how the universe works. Feels weird, feels, I don't know, disrespectful, something like that. So they don't tend to tell the people next to them at the funeral, but they do tell the guy at the front of the room. So I've heard some really good dirty jokes that I will not share with you, not even at the workshop afterwards. Sorry. I've heard all kinds of insights. I've heard everything you can imagine and a few things that I couldn't. But I'll tell you something. In all of my years of doing that and being a part of that, and all of the funerals that I've done, and that experience, happy ones, sad ones, everything in between, I've heard everything, but I have never heard anybody say anything like this. Hey, you know, that was a great service, and we told beautiful stories, and I loved that moment. We taught and thought about things, but, you know, I sure wish you would have told me more about their credit score. I wish you would have told me more about their shoe size, height, weight, vital statistics. I want to know more about the data. No one has ever wanted to know more about the data. And that's interesting. It's interesting that nobody wants to know about the numbers when you think about the fact that so many people spend so much time chasing those exact numbers. Oh man, if only I could lose a few more pounds, if only I could make a few more bucks, if only I could live in that prestigious zip code, if only I could get a few more likes on my Instagram picture of nachos. People live and die, mostly die by the numbers. And that's weird when you know darn well that the numbers are completely meaningless. That's really interesting. And what I've learned is that life is really a you are what you eat kind of a proposition. And what I mean by that is if you chase something that is meaningless, you end up feeling meaningless too. And I told a lot of people's life story with that sentence. The good news is there's a choice about that. I don't know where it comes from. We tell kids that, you know, if you suffer long enough in school, you get to graduate and go to an even more miserable school. If you suffer long enough, you get to, hopefully, this one really stinks. This is great. Hopefully you'll get a job that you don't like, but eventually you'll get a promotion, and hopefully that promotion will lead you to an advanced degree of misery, and you'll be so good at misery you get a gold watch, and then hopefully you die. We train people for it. The commercials on television are like, you have a 5-blade razor, how about a 6-blade razor? Pretty sure that's a cheese grater. Never mind, buy it. It's something that we are marketed to, and it's easy to blame traditional church. I mean, the idea that if you're miserable for long enough, you get to go to heaven. I get that, and we can go a lot of places about that. It's something that people talk about. It's something that sometimes people feel burned by. I get it. But you know, I gotta tell you, I've been to a lot of progressive churches that don't have that kind of concept of eventual finish line rewards, and yet there's a lot of emphasis placed on something like manifestation. If you pray the right way, God will give you a Buick. Because that is, of course, the end-all be-all of human civilization. And this relationship I have with the power that's created everything is a new car. It's like a game show. All of a sudden God is Pat Sajak or something. And it occurs to me that it's the same pursuit with different nouns. And if we're going to grow, life has got to be about more than changing the nouns around. It's like an extra medium t-shirt. Say quick. They make t-shirts in all sizes, you know this. There's small, medium, large, extra large, extra, extra large, extra, extra, extra large, extra small, extra, extra small. Nano, maybe? I don't know where you shop. But they don't make an extra medium, because it's a silly concept. You can't get more medium than medium. And yet, of all of the things that I'm going to say to you today, if I had to pick one thing that I really want you to take with you, is I wanted you to take with you the image of an extra medium t-shirt. Because I got to tell you folks, there are a lot of places in life that try to sell you an extra medium t-shirt. In other words, more of the same. Extra mediocre. The same thing over and over and over again. A geographical cure, you know, where you try to move and you think magically that'll change you, that's an extra medium t-shirt, man. Getting burned out on one church but then going to another church where they say exactly the same thing, extra medium t-shirt. Going from one toxic relationship to another without changing anything in your heart is an extra medium t-shirt. Every self-help book that says basically the same thing, but there's a different picture of the author on the back, is an extra medium t-shirt. If life is going to be better for us, we have to change more than the nouns, more than the about the author picture. There are no changes in attitude based on changes in latitude, no matter what Jimmy Buffett says. Sorry. I know, it's a letdown. My wife Jenny and I were walking by the water. We live in St. Pete and we get to walk by the water. It's an amazing thing. Sometimes we see dolphins. Most times we see tourists. And we were walking by the water and I saw this amazing thing. I saw this bird come from somewhere in the sky and go down into the water and grab a fish and take it back out of the water, and I don't know, I think it was inviting the fish to a party. I don't know what happened after that. But it occurred to me that there's something really deeply spiritually powerful about that, and that is that you don't confront a problem on the level of the problem. The bird doesn't deal with the fish in the water to make the fish into food. Sorry, it's a Discovery Channel moment. The bird takes the fish out of the water and into the context of the bird. There's a very powerful lesson there. It reminded me of when I was a kid and I really read a lot of mythology. It reminded me of the story of Hercules and Antaeus. Maybe you remember this from when you were a kid and someone made you read this stuff. You know about Hercules, Schwarzenegger-looking guy. His claim to fame, he makes his bones by being tougher than everybody else. You can't beat Hercules. He kind of goes from town to town like a gunslinger, fighting and all that kind of stuff, good wrestler. This is before the WWE. And he meets this guy named Antaeus. And he picks him up and he throws Antaeus to the ground. But what Hercules doesn't know is that Antaeus' mom is Gaia, the goddess of the earth. And she loves him like a rock. Sorry, I couldn't help it. It was right there. It was just a... But the deal is that every time Hercules pinned Antaeus to the ground, he got that mama energy and he got stronger. And so the one thing that Hercules was good at, which is throwing people down and pinning them to the ground, was screwing him up. Until he realized what was going on. Oh, wait a minute, I know who your mom is. And he just picked Antaeus up and he held him until all of his strength was gone and he won the wrestling match. And there's a point there. The point is, you cannot solve a problem on the same level of consciousness that created the problem. You require a change in context. Extra medium shirts don't fit anybody. It requires doing something differently. And so I'm so grateful for a moment, even a moment that seems really sad, like a funeral, because it takes people out of that sizing and into a different set of ideas. Think about your life. There have been incredible victories and incredible setbacks that have taken you to a place where you had to look at things differently. You are blessed by that, because look how far you've come. That's how this works. And so I want you to embrace a change with me. If you want your life to work better, this relationship with the isness and the allness, or just to get along better at work, in your relationships, whatever it is, here's what I want you to do. I want you to embrace the pointless. Embrace the pointless. Let me say it one more time. This is the deal. Embrace the pointless. I want you to find things in your life that are completely pointless and lean in. Enough with the 5-year plan. The point of this thing I'm doing is so that I can make money. The point of this thing that I'm doing is so people will like me. The point of this thing I'm doing is so I get to heaven, or whatever it is. I want you to find the things in your life that have no external point. Love is pointless. It is inherently good when you think about it. Everything that really matters, that's really meaningful, has no point. It's just good all by itself. The reason that you like your favorite song, pointless. And yet it's one of the most profound truths about you. Lean into that. Embrace the pointless. I'm a minister, like I said, and one of the things that means is that people come to me and they say, you know, these religious books, the Bible, whatever, Lessons in Truth, can't deal with them. Fix it. Here. Fix it. I can't do that, but I get it. There's a lot in there. People say, you know, I wish that the Bible was more straightforward. I wish you could just read it like stereo instructions, because, you know, those are clear. And I say, you know, the parts of the Bible, and you could apply this to any wisdom literature, you could apply this to the Quran or the Upanishads or whatever you want. I happen to be a Bible guy. It's not particular to that, though. The parts that are the most straightforward stereo instructions like are the parts that are the most brittle. The parts about whether or not a guy should shave, or whether or not you should eat shellfish, or whether or not you should have claws of different textures and fibers and stuff, those are the parts that are brittle. They don't survive the test of time. And go, well, what does this have to do with me? The parts that are the most straightforward are the parts that don't last. Maybe we shouldn't ask, what's the point of this? Maybe that's the wrong question. And people say, well, yeah, but what about the golden rule? You know the one. I don't know if you went to Sunday school or not. I did. And we learned, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You got it, that one. And that is such a universal, straightforward principle that you see versions of it in every religious tradition. Yes, I've seen that Facebook post too, where there's a version of it in Hinduism, and there's a version of it in Buddhism, and there's a version of it in Sufism, and there's a version of it. People go, see, that's one. That's straightforward, and that's really clear, and that has a point, and yet that one is good, and it survives. And I say, what is the point of it really? Because here's the thing about do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What if they have taken a vow of silence, and I want to talk about the weather? What if they're on a diet, and I want a cheesecake? Because make no mistake, I want a cheesecake. All of a sudden, doing unto others as I would have them do unto me becomes very complicated very quickly, because people are different. Yes, we're all made out of the same stuff, but everybody's working on different things, aren't they? And it can become very self-centered very quickly. Well, I did unto you what I wanted. I don't care about your needs. As it turns out, the beauty of the golden rule, the golden part of the golden rule, is not that it's straightforward, because it is not straightforward. The beauty of the golden rule is that it forces me to think outside myself. The beauty of the golden rule is it requires me to get past the facts of someone else's life and into their story. Ask yourself, am I telling my story? The people who love me, do they know my story? Do I know theirs? Because that's what matters. You're not your data. You're your story. This place is a holy place. But it's not holy because of the building materials. You don't go to the consecrated Home Depot and get special spiritual drywall. Try it. Those guys laugh at you. It doesn't work that way. Church doesn't happen because there are walls. You happen to church. You make this place a spiritual center, a holy place. You make this with your intention. Church doesn't happen to the building. You happen. And as it turns out, everything important is like that. Love doesn't happen because there's flowers and Barry White, although that helps. Because there are very creepy people who are like, hey, I gave you flowers, how come you don't love me? That ain't how that works, is it? Are you sharing your story or are you sharing your facts? There's lots of broken relationships with the person who goes, well, I pay the bills, you've got to love me now. Ooh, welcome to therapy. You happen to it, and it makes it love. As it turns out, everything is like that. And that's the thing. Let us be the kind of people where life doesn't happen to us. Let us be the kind of people where we start happening to our lives. That's what I want for you. That's what I'm here to do. That's why I'm on this planet, guys. I want you to start happening to your life. Everything's like that. Maybe when you were a kid, if you were into scouts or something like that, you learned about the triangle of fire. Sounds like a game show thing, but it's not. You know, to make fire, you require 3 things. Remember, you require a fuel source like wood, you require heat, you require oxygen. You need those 3 things. And not in order. You can't have fuel and then wood and then heat and have fire. They all have to happen at once. And when you know that, what you realize is that fire isn't a thing. It's not a noun. It's an event. It's a happening. And I'm telling you that. Not because we're going to the jamboree later on, although I'm open. I'm telling you that. Because I want you to know that everything important is an event. I want you to know that you are an event. You're not a noun. You're a verb. You are less like a rock and more like a rock concert. That's what I want you to know about yourself. Decide to be a happening instead of a thing, instead of a collection of credit scores and Diet Coke and corpuscles or whatever makes you up. You're an event. Start happening to your life. Start thinking in terms of verbs instead of nouns. And that means that when you pray, whatever words you use, I use the word God. I can't believe God cares about brand recognition, so use whatever words you want. But when you pray, stop asking God to change your nouns and start asking God to change your verbs. That alone will transform how prayer works for you. I've seen it happen. It's worked in my own life too. In other words, let's get done with the transactional thing of, God, I promise I'll be good if you give me the new car or the new hairstyle or the new whatever it is. Let's stop trying to find books that give us the special techniques for getting into God's treehouse. If I just memorize the right words, I'll get in this time. Here's the thing I've learned. It's that I don't know. There are so many times in my life where the good thing that happened because it was a surprise. You know? Think about your life too. Maybe my job is to not give God my Christmas list. I'll be a good boy for once. Maybe my job is to say, God, let me be open. Let me be ready. Let me be teachable. And watch what happens. because I have to believe that somebody's got a better idea than I do about what's best for me next. What if I got out of the way? Can you pray to get out of the way? Can you pray for change? Because there's a couple of different kind of problems to solve in life. There's mechanical problems, which is like fixing a flat tire. Things that don't really require any change. You fix the tire, you move on with your life. Like when you break your arm, don't try this at home. Doctor puts a cast on it. After a while, you take the cast off and you're right back to the skate park. You know, nothing really changes. Don't try this at home. But then there's adaptive problems, the things that require change, like quitting smoking or getting sober or falling in love. Which problems are interesting? Stop trying to treat God like he's a mechanical problem. And start treating this whole thing like it's an adaptive problem where we change. When you work on your affirmations, do people do that anymore? I do. But it's tricky because people come to me and they go, you know, I know all the affirmations. I've read all the books. I got them all. And then I try to sell them my book too. And then, but they say, I don't get the affirmation thing because I feel like I'm no good. And I say, God, I know I'm a beautiful, well-loved child of God, and I've got it all going for me, and my hair is just right. And I smell lemon fresh, and people love me. And I say them, I know all the affirmations, I say them all, but they don't feel true to me. I feel like I'm a piece of garbage. I don't feel that. And so no matter what I say, it feels like a lie. That comes up a lot. And I think sometimes in some communities, people don't feel comfortable with sharing that because it's like an emperor's new clothes thing where everybody else has got the affirmations down and I don't, so I feel guilty about telling a lie to myself, and that doesn't work because here's the magic. You ready? The universe does not speak English. The universe speaks intention. The universe does not speak English, the universe speaks intention. So no matter what you say, no matter how powerful and beautiful and wonderful and lyrical the words are, if they feel like a lie to you, the prayer you prayed is a prayer of a lie. You want to get better at this, stop telling lies to yourself. You can't lie to yourself, you know better. You sure can't lie to God. So who wins? Start with what feels true. Maybe you can't say, everybody loves me. But maybe you can say, I know that I have room for love in my heart because I feel that space. I have the seeds of it. Maybe you can't say, I'm a genius, because you don't feel like a genius. But you know what? There are things you do that nobody else can do, and your job is to find those things and lean into them. Start with what feels true, because that is the place you grow from. Where's the truth? Where's the truth? What are you called to do? People say, well, I don't know what I'm called to do. That seems like a big thing. So I'll put it a different way. When you give something, does it grow or shrink when you give it? Because that's the litmus test. If you give something and it wears out, it's not important. Full stop. If you give something and it grows, it is important. That's just how the universe works. Ask yourself of what you're doing with your time and your treasure and your talent and anything else that starts with the letter T. When I give this, do I get more of it? Does the universe make more of it? Because that means it's meaningful. Think about love. When you give it, you get more. It's like a magic penny. Inspiration, honor, truth, beauty, art, friendship. Chase the things that have that breeder-reactor quality that they increase when you give them. Remember how good you were at friendship when you were a kid? I don't know about you, but a lot of adults are not bad, or not good at it. A lot of adults are terrible at friendship. If I see someone at the grocery store that I also know from work, I can't deal with it. You're not supposed to be here. What, did God run out of extras? Grown-ups have weird rules. You like that one? Grown-ups have weird rules about friendship. They got barriers, they got baggage, they got stuff. Kids are great at friendship. We both like Spider-Man, best friends. You're wearing red shoes. I'm wearing red shoes. Best friends. There was no limit to best friends when you were a kid. Get back there. Let the walls come down. Because when you give friendship in that sweet, innocent way, you know what you get? Friendship. Kids know better than most adults that we are all made out of the same stuff and we're all just walking each other home, as they say. Get that way. When I was a little kid, I was walking with my two buddies, Joey and Joshua. And we had just discovered the step on a crack, break your mother's back thing. Oh gosh, that's too much pressure, man. I was a nervous kid. I couldn't handle it. Too many cracks. Freudian implications notwithstanding, I didn't want to break anybody's back. And from Spider-Man to Freud in 30 seconds. I don't know if you kept track of that. But, so I was walking very carefully. It was like Indiana Jones. I didn't want to step on any cracks. My buddy Joshua was doing the same thing. But Joey was older. He was about a year older, and his parents let him watch Dukes of Hazzard, so he was very worldly. And he said, you know, if you look at this concrete under a microscope, there's millions of little cracks. You can't help but step on the crack. And he was being cool. And Joshua took that okay, but I was paralyzed. I didn't even know what to do. Whatever 7-year-olds have that's like a panic attack is what I had. I couldn't deal with it. I don't want to breaking backs all over the place. And not to mention that, if there's cracks everywhere, then what's keeping my school from falling through the crust of the earth? What's keeping me from falling down where there's like lava and dinosaurs and James Mason? I don't know what's in there. Freaked out. But then Joshua said, you know, I bet if you look at this concrete under a microscope, you'll also see places where everything is stuck together like a spider web. I bet you'll see places where it's all connected. And I'm just going to walk on those places. And Joshua walked forward, and me and Joey followed. So I guess I want you to know that you have a choice on where you step. There's lots of places that cause divisions. Chasing the numbers and the data of life, trying to prove yourself, trying to earn it. And there's lots of places you can step that connect you to what matters, that increase when you give them, that tell your story. Because here's what I want you to know. You don't have to earn this love. You don't have to earn healing or life or beauty or truth or inspiration. You don't have to earn those things any more than you have to earn thermodynamics, gravity, math. They just are. You are already beautiful. You are already meaningful. You are already strong. You are already free. Because after all, freedom is a choice. Thank you very much.